Welcome back to Homefront. I am Rome. And I wonder if you all start wondering every day who the next guest would be. But today we have a brand new guest, a special guest with us. She is a pediatrician and she also subspecializes in adolescent development. So I would like to welcome to Homefront Dr. Asha Pemberton.
Thank you so much.
Welcome, Doc.
My pleasure to be
All right,
here.
so we're diving straight into it.
Yes.
On Homefront, we're discussing adolescent development. First of all, let me ask, what is an adolescent? What age is adolescent?
Well, that's a fantastic question. So basically, adolescence is the stage through which children transition into adults. So it really is more than an age range, but adolescence begins with the onset of puberty. And we know that healthy children at the ages of maybe 9 or 10 can start puberty. So the earliest stage of adolescence starts in late childhood. And at the upper end, adolescence is complete when we have a fully functioning independent adult. I think we all know 30-year-olds who live at home and have mommy cooking for them and washing their clothes and underwear.
They're still in adolescence?
They're still in adolescence. So the upper end, by our contemporary literature, is that it does not end remarkably at 18 or 21, but when a young adult is fully functioning, emancipated, and leading a life of their own.
Oh.
Yeah.
So then that leads me to the question, a lot of people thought that an adolescent was a teenager. So there is a difference.
There is a difference. So the teenage years are a subset or a part of adolescence. So the process actually begins around age 9, 10 and ends in our field as specialists. We will manage young people into their 20s. So it really is more than a decade of life. It is more than the teen years. It goes from late childhood into young adulthood.
Now, you spoke a bit about different stages. What are the different stages of adolescence?
So classically, adolescence is divided into 3 stages: early, middle, and late. So early adolescence starts at age 9, 10, and ends at 13. Middle adolescence between 14 and 16, and late adolescence from 17 till ... For some people, it might be 30.
Right.
But again, we tend to end around 25. And each of those stages have specific characteristics that we look at from a healthcare perspective.
All right, and I heard the phrase adolescent development. What exactly is adolescent development?
Really exciting stuff, Rome. So basically, in adolescent development, young people are growing in every way. There are physical changes of puberty, which start, again, age 9, 10, and continues until maybe 16. There are significant cognitive or brain changes that occur during this period of time. Young people will adopt the culture of their friends and their social circumstance. So a really important part of adolescent development is when young people, as we all did, want to be with their friends, follow the dress codes, the culture, the music, the vibe, the energy of their friends, sometimes to the frustration of their parents, but that's an important part. And finally, their psychological development goes through many, many stages. So in a nutshell, development includes physical changes, social changes, psychological changes, and actual brain changes.
So what could parents look for, like in terms of signs, to know, all right, we're in stage 1, then we're in the middle stage, and then we're in the late stage? Because I know there's a transition period with parents, and they always get shell-shocked by this, because there was a phase where the child was, mommy, 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 or daddy, 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 and they want to be around the parents all the time, and then they reach this phase where, oh gosh,
Stay
I don't
away.
want to, yeah, I don't want to be
Exactly.
with you. Why you following me? I don't want to pick me up from school. I'd rather travel, or I want to be with my friends. What are the things that they could look out for that would identify, all right, they're moving from the first stage into the middle stage into the latter stage?
That's a fantastic question, because I think in our culture, in our society, parents often do not understand adolescent development. So we see the physical changes, they're pretty obvious. So in early adolescence, puberty is happening, there are pimples, there are skin changes, young people want to look in the mirror, they fix their hair, they put on one outfit, change the outfit. That's pretty obvious. But in early adolescence, young people want to spend more time with friends, and that can be sort of hurtful to parents if they don't understand that. Middle adolescence, puberty is over, they're tall, they're big, they're bold, and they're in your face, right? And this is the time when young people want to spend most time with friends. Again, lots of frustration, lots of conflict, because they feel like little adults. But my advice to parents is always, even though a middle adolescent thinks they know what's good for them, they require parenting to supervise them, because we know what is right for them. Moving into late adolescence, which, as we discussed, some people never quite get out of
that.
Ideally, young people should have a firm sense of what they want in life, a sense of who they are or identity, be involved in hopefully more secure relationships, and have an idea about their vocation, their education, their employment, etc. So parents can use those sort of big targets as a sort of a framework to see as children move through the stages. But we do realize that everyone is different, and there's some young people who are pubertally mature but cognitively a bit delayed, so that they're big and tall but act more childlike. Likewise, they're going to be teenagers who are physically smaller and less developed, but when you talk to them, they have that street savvy, they have those social skills. So it really is a transitional process.
But in Trinidad and Tobago, I knew that a couple of years ago, the age of an adult was deemed as 16 years old, and then now it's 18 years old. And in terms of the age of consent, was before it was 16 years old, and then now it's 18 years old. But then to drink alcohol is 18 years old, but to get your license is 17 years old. And then I saw in the US it's 21 years old. So it's kind of like a gray area as to...
It's bacchanal everywhere in a nutshell, and I can say so. So we really still exist in a time where our legislature, our educational system and our health system are not in sync as far as adolescent health is concerned. So young people have certain rights and privileges. In other areas, they have no rights or privileges. They have access to driving, which we know is a huge social responsibility. But at the same time, a 17-year-old could not access confidential health care in our system just walking into a health center without a parent. So some things just don't really make sense. And this is why we continue to advocate for changes and reform so that adolescents are able to access the holistic services that they need.
Okay. Thank you very much for touching on that. And I mentioned the US because I want to bring it back to Trinidad and Tobago, because I spent some time traveling and I saw that in some of these foreign countries, they kind of put their kids out of the house early. But in Trinidad and Tobago, do you think that we, as they would say, quote unquote, baby our kids too much, where their adolescent period lasts longer than it really should?
Well, our adolescent period locally definitely extends well into the 20s for a number of reasons. I mean, there are educational attainment goals. I mean, we want our young people to get their first degree and then their master's and then the next thing and the next thing. And whilst they're studying, they can't do anything, right? Because they're studying. You have to cook for them, wash for them because they're beating the books, which we understand. There are also employment access concerns, and so young people may stay in their homes for longer periods of time whilst they navigate, the workplace and access to employment. Having said that, you can live...
Wait. I just want to stick up in
All right.
because we're going to jump. I love where this conversation is going, but let me just stick up in because we're going to jump to our mindfulness moment, right? So we're going to take a deep breath in together and out to our mindfulness moment. We're coming back because I want to discuss that further.
Welcome to this mindful moment. Today we're going to check in with our emotions. So our emotions are like waves in the ocean. They rise and fall. But one thing we can count on is that they will come, but they will always go. So just closing your eyes, sitting up nice and tall, and just taking a few deep breaths to allow yourself to come into this moment. And just check in to see what you're feeling right now. Are you happy, worried, sad, anxious? Just check in and see if you can put a label on that emotion. And just checking in with your body and noticing where in your body are you feeling that emotion right now. If it's a particularly difficult emotion for you, you can place your hand on your heart and just gently say, "It's okay." So take some time to check in with your emotions and remember to be here now.
Bringing you that peace and calm in your day with our mindfulness moments. So back to Dr. Pemberton, we were just talking about the adolescents being in that adolescent phase a bit longer in Trinidad and Tobago versus outside of Trinidad and Tobago, where they have to leave the bird's nest and fend for themselves and bringing it back home. What's your take on it?
Well, there are a number of reasons for that, as we started talking about school reasons, work reasons, changes in our patterns of marriage and family rearing. But I think the important take-home point is that not only locally, but regionally and internationally, the upper end of adolescence is shifting into the 20s, but that does not mean that we can't empower young adults with those life skills to become more independent. So even if you have in your homes a 22-year-old who is at university, they can pay their own bills. They can wash their own clothes and organize themselves while studying. They can, have a relationship and be, sort of in charge and responsible for themselves. And so even though their physical location may be in their family home, we need to equip them with the holistic wellness skills to manage on their own when that time actually comes.
To be a bit independent. So even
Absolutely.
if you may not be able to afford to pay your own rent outside or to buy your own house at that age, then you be a bit of an independent person while you're still at home.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I remember when I was growing up and I was in my parents' house, at the minute I started to work, my father would come and he would say, listen, you have to contribute to the household. Not that he needed the money, but he wanted to teach me independence, that when I do go out there, I would have to eventually pay a rent on my own. So I would have to contribute to some of the bills, and then I would have to learn to I learned to iron my clothes from since primary school, because they want to instill those values, and I think that's important. In the Caribbean households, where a lot of people say that the parents baby up the kids a bit much and keep them at home for too long before when they move out on their own, some of them can't fend for themselves. A lot of men, especially now, I can speak on behalf of the men, don't know how to cook when they leave mommy's household, especially during that lockdown period where you could not go and buy fast food, where we have to learn to fend for ourselves. I think I agree with you that learning the life skills in the adolescent phase is important. And as I touched on the lockdown phase with the pandemic, how would you think the pandemic affected adolescent development?
Well, what we're seeing now, which we anticipated, were many secondary and tertiary or ripple-on effects of the pandemic on young people. As I touched on before, social development and peer interaction is a critical part of team development. And if you think about it, when we were young, we wanted to hang out with our friends. Back in the good old days, we went to the mall, we went to the cinema, and it was, your friend network helps you develop who you are. It helps you to adapt to the culture of the day, and it helps you sort of find yourself in the world to, kind of realize who you're becoming. Because of social restrictions and health and safety, young people for the last now over a year have been at home, they have not been in physical school, and we are witnessing sort of the negative effects on their social interactions, on their sense of identity and development, because they're talking to friends sometimes online, and not everybody has that luxury, if we're honest, right? And they are, long periods of time without that physical social interaction. So we are seeing in practice and in life and in homes and communities, young people who are isolated, they're anxious, they're scared, they're lonely. I see many young people who are afraid that their friends are not their friends anymore, and it's quite devastating, And in some family setups, there are some families who allow, small amounts of supervised interaction, and other parents who are more cautious, and so those children feel left out. And so the impact of the pandemic has been multiple-fold. I'm tripping on myself with young people, because their social interaction has been affected, their educational attainment and exams have been affected, so lots and lots of effects that we are continuing to navigate.
Because the kids they go into online. They can't meet up with their friends. So and as we spoke with the prof before that, a lot of times you would see them interacting on these games and trying to talk to people, and then you would find some of the adolescents, they meet each other online too. And I wonder if there's like a danger in that, because you don't know who's on the other side.
There are lots of dangers.
Yeah, you as a parent now, you have these children at home and you don't know what is happening while they're online.
Yeah.
So you also have to be careful.
We have to be careful. I mean, the online environment is the way that education is being dispersed at this time. So we pretty much have no choice for young people to be connected to the internet. That is their portal to communication. However, as we discussed before, young people, particularly middle adolescents, will be sort of big and bad and in your face, and they think they know everything, but supervision is very much required.
So you would advise that?
Absolutely. Online space is not a safe and secure space. They can speak to anybody from anywhere pretending to be somebody who they may not actually be. But even locally, we've seen many instances of young people being groomed into unharmful situations by, unfortunately, adults who take advantage of them. And so parents, it is your responsibility. It is their responsibility to supervise online activity of young people, to monitor the length of time that they spend online and the apps which they use, because as much fun as TikTok and YouTube can be, many of them are unfiltered, and a lot of that content simply is inappropriate for younger adolescents.
So you all heard it, and we plead with all the parents. We know that it is stressful to have the children, to have the teens, to have all the adolescents at home during this time, but we advise, Dr. Pemberton, we are advising that we have some sort of supervision with their online interaction. So I want to thank you very much for joining us here at Homefront. And I feel we have to bring you back. I feel we have to bring you back when we're dealing with the adolescents, because we know we have a lot of parents who look at us on the home front and they would like some advice into how we deal with it. So the next time we're going to dive a little more into the brain of the adolescents. This has been Homefront. I'm Rome. Thank you very much for joining us. And remember, we want you to continue to donate and support the PED CARES Foundation. Remember, they are the ones that would train the paramedics, they would train the doctors, they would train the nurses, and they would support the children. So they support the children and you support them. We all support each other to make sure that we have a future Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you all very much for joining us. Catch us tomorrow, same time, same place. What about the questions and answers? Keep on sending those questions to us via the email address that would pop up on your screen right here on Homefront.